In this video, we'll look at how to add vSphere, AWS and Azure cloud accounts into VRA, creating cloud zones, then how to create projects and assign resources. So log on to VRA 8.1, either using the administrator account or cloud service administrator account, cloud assembly administrator account. So the user who has the permissions on the cloud assembly administrator role. So I'm logging with an administrator. So first we'll look at the vSphere. So keep the following information in hand before you add it. The vCenter server IP address or FQDN name, then the credentials which has necessary permissions on the vCenter environment. So go to the cloud assembly. Go to the infrastructure. At the bottom, we can find cloud accounts. Select the cloud accounts, click on cloud account. So here it is showing us AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, NSXT, NSXV, VMware Cloud and AWS and vCenter. Select the type of the cloud account, select vCenter, name of the vCenter. You can give it acute vCenter. Then IP address of the vCenter or FQDN name of the vCenter and the user account which has necessary permissions on the vSphere environment. So in my lab, I'm using the administrator @vsphere.local. Click on validate. So it is going to verify. It's saying entrusted certificate. Click on accept. Because as it has a self-signed certificate, we can see credentials validation successful. So once you get that, click on allow provisioning to these data centers, select yes. So if there is an NSX integrated into this vCenter, we can specify the NSX endpoint. Later also we can do it. As of now, we don't have NSX integrated. So create a cloud zone for the selected data center. I'm not selecting this because we'll manually create a cloud zones. So we added a vCenter endpoint. Now we will add AWS endpoint cloud account. So get the following information. You need access key and a session key in order to configure AWS. So in order to get that, log into AWS Management Console. Click on Security Configuration. Then you will be able to get it. Let me go. So I'm going to the aws.amazon.com. Sign into the Management Console. So log in with the user account, which has the necessary permissions. Go here, we can see my security credentials. Select the user account, my security credentials. Go to the access keys. Earlier, if you have created these access keys and if you have that, you can use that. If you don't have the access keys in handy, create a new access keys, download an access key, or show access key and download access key. Copy this. And let me paste it here. This is my access key. And this is my secret key. So get this, click on security credentials, then create an access key. So it will provide you an access key and secret key. Get this row details. Click on add cloud account. Select AWS. Give the whatever the AWS name which you want to provide it. I'm saying acute AWS. And we see access key. Paste the secret key and access key. Click on validate. You're saying credentials validation successful. Now select the regions under which you're going to consume the resources. So I'm selecting Asia Pacific. South and Asia Pacific East. I'm removing the create a cloud zone for the selected regions. I'm not going to create a cloud zone as of now. So select the regions and click on add. Now we added the AWS cloud account. Now let's understand how do we add Azure cloud account. So in Azure cloud account, you need Azure subscription ID. Get the details like an subscription ID. Then you need an tenant ID. Then you need a client ID. And you need a client key. And second is then necessary permissions, app registration permissions. Then we have to add the Azure cloud account. So first let me show you that how to create a subscription ID, tenant ID, client ID, and a client key. So log into the Azure. I'm signing out. From the AWS. So go to the Azure. Select the user account, which has the necessary permissions. So go to the Azure Active Directory or go to the first subscriptions. So you get a subscription ID. Just copy this subscription ID. Later we'll come to this. Let me copy the subscription ID. Paste the subscription ID. Then we need a tenant ID. Switch to the portal. Go to the Azure Active Directory. We can see a tenant ID. Click on the overview. Once you click on Azure Active Directory, click on overview. Then you will be able to find a tenant ID. Copy that tenant ID. So we need a client ID and a client key. So go to the Azure Active Directory. Then go to the app registrations. So click on create a new registration. So I'm saying called as an VRA 8.1 application. Give the name of the application. Accounts in organizational directory only or external. I'm selecting multi-tenant. You can ignore the URL. Just say register. Go to the app registrations. Here we can find. Go to the Azure Active Directory, app registrations. So we will be able to find the one which we have created. Click on this to open the one. So we can find here application client ID. Copy that and paste it. Now you need a client key. So go to the certificates and secrets, new client secret, give the name, VRA 8.1, add it, give a name and add it. So down we will get the value. Copy this value. Later we will not be able to do it. So when you create it, you have to copy the value and paste it in your somewhere which is required. So go to the Azure. So now you got the keys. Got the keys. Now we collected the subscription ID, tenant ID, client ID, and a client key. The next thing is we need to assign necessary permissions on the app registration. So go to the portal.azure.com, Azure Active Directory, app registrations. Click on that. Go to the API permissions. Go to the API permissions, add permission, select Azure Service Management, select delegated permissions, select user impersonate, click on add permission. So I'm showing it again. First go to the Azure Active Directory, go to the app registrations, select the app which you created, go to the API permissions, click on add permission, select Azure Service Management, delegated permissions, user impersonate, and add permissions. So we are providing the necessary permissions for the application which we created in Azure for registration. Just open this and check. Right, go to the app registration, VRA app. On the overview tab, we'll find supported account types, multiple organizations. Click on that. Down, you'll be able to see default client type. Treat application as a public client. So we have to enable this so that we can connect to this particular application from an external network. Right. So now I enabled the public client. So let's go to the subscription. Select the subscription. Access control. Assign privileges for that particular application on the subscription. Add a role assignment. Add. Select a owner. Search for VRA obligation and say save it. So the role already exists. Select a contributor. Select VRA application. Right. So like this, you add the permissions. So first we have to create an application and make it as multi-tenant or a single tenant. Then assign permissions on the application. Then create a secret key. Then enable a public. Then come back to the subscriptions and assign the subscriptions. Now let's go to the VRA. So third section, then add cloud account. So go to the VRA cloud account, add a cloud account, select Azure, give a name. I'm giving Acute Azure. Subscription ID, the one which you copied. Paste here. Tenant ID, which you got from here. Paste here. Client application ID, the one which you got it. And application secret key, which we got it. Click on validate. Okay. So we are able to see the credentials validated successfully. Now select the regions where you are going to create resources. I'm selecting South India, Central India, West India. Create a cloud zone. I'm not selecting it because we are going to create a cloud zones manually. Click on add. Right. So we have added 3 cloud accounts: Acute AWS, Acute Azure, and Acute vCenter, which is like vCenter endpoint, Azure cloud account, and AWS cloud account. So this is how we can add the cloud accounts. Now let's look at the cloud zones. The next step which we need to do is in cloud zones. So go to the infrastructure. So log in with an administrator account or cloud assembly administrator. Go to the infrastructure. Go to the configure. So under a configure, we would see a cloud zones. So the cloud zones will identify the Azure locations, AWS regions, and vCenter server clusters. So click on add new cloud zone. Name, I'm giving it region or setting. So we select from the, we can see select from a vCenter. Name for this particular cloud zone, I'm saying vCenter cloud zone. I'm giving it 1. The placement policy default. Click on compute. So select from which cloud account you want to create a cloud zone. So we selected a vCenter. The name of the cloud zone. Go to the compute. So it displays the list of all the ESXi servers which are available. Select them. Go to the projects. As of now, we don't have any projects available. So click on create. Now we create a cloud zone out of the vSphere environment. I'm creating a new cloud zone. We see AWS Asia Pacific East 1. So I'm saying that AWS AP East 1. Compute will automatically gets from the AWS. As of now, we don't have any projects. So click on create. Similarly, go to the AWS Asia Pacific South. Name, give it AWS Asia Pacific South 1 cloud zone. New cloud zone. Select the Azure Central India. Give it Azure Central India cloud zone. Compute will automatically takes it. New cloud zone. Select Azure South India. Azure South India cloud zone. Create. Select West India. Azure cloud zone. South India West India cloud zone. Create it. So this way we create cloud zones. So before we create cloud zones, first we have to add a cloud account. Then we have to add the cloud zones. Now let's go to the projects. So now by creating a project, we are allocating resources to a project, and there could be a set of users belongs to a project. So I'm creating a project name called as an HR team. A project name called as an HR team. So who are the users who are going to be part of this particular one? So we can search the users. Search for a users. As the users are not being identified because we have not made him part of any organization roles or anywhere. That is the reason why we are not able to get it. So I'm selecting a VRA user 1. I'm saying member. Add a user. Select VRA user 2 and select the member. So we're adding 2 users, VRA user 1 and VRA user 1 into a project. Go to the provisioning. Select from which are all the cloud zones he can consume the resources. Cloud zone. Here we will be able to see the list of cloud zones. I'm saying that from a vSphere cloud zone he can consume, and you can set the capacities limit. Add. I'm adding another cloud zone called as an AWS South Cloud Zone. We can set the limits that how many instances he can create, how much capacity of RAM he can consume, how many CPUs he can consume within this particular cloud zone. Click on add. Now for this particular one project, we are giving in resources from a vCenter and AWS Pacific South. Create a project. So I'm creating one more project. I'm saying called as a .NET development team. Users, add users, select the users. So select VRA user 3, user 4, and a member of this project. Click on add. Provisioning. So from which are all the cloud zones this project can consume the resources. I'm giving from a vCenter, cloud zone, unlimited resources. From a cloud zone, I'm giving it Azure Central India, unlimited resources. I'm creating a project. Now we created a .NET development team as a project, and we added 2 users into that particular one and cloud zones. So I'm creating a new project called as an Java development team. Click on users. Select the users who are going to be part of this particular project who can consume the services. So I'm selecting user 5. A user can be part of multiple projects. I'm selecting in a user 5. I'm giving a role called as a member. Add. Go to the provisioning. So from which cloud zones he can consume the resources. I'm giving it Azure South India unlimited resources. From Azure West India unlimited resources. So create a project. So by creating a project, you are allocating the resources from where they can consume it and who are the members of this particular project, who are the users. So who can create blueprints, who can consume blueprints, who can deploy the resources within that particular project. Right. So this way we can create cloud accounts, cloud zones, and projects. Right. In the next video, so we look at the creating a blueprint, a simple blueprint, and a couple of videos we will look at creating a simple blueprint to a complex blueprints.